you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the spot!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Thursday, March 27th. The Montreal Canadiens went into the game tonight in Philadelphia, going up against the Philadelphia Flyers team that had won one of their last 12 games, but they knew that they were going to be charged up because they proceeded with a coaching change earlier this morning. I can't say that I'm surprised, because a couple of nights ago, I told Pierre McGuire, Pierre, after hearing what John Tortorella had to say, don't you think it doesn't bode very well for John Tortorella and the Philadelphia Flyers? We didn't speculate, but it sounds like he had given up or that they were going to give up on him after that anyway. They made it official earlier this morning, and he is no longer the coach, and the assistant coach, Mr. Shaw, takes over. And Mr. Shaw, in his first game as head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, says, guys, we start fresh tonight. We start brand new. Show me what you can do. And his team answered the bell for sure. It's time for the McGuire Report. The Flyers beat the Canadiens by a score of 6-4. This one hurts.
The McGuire Report. Presented by Vago Italian.
And yes, the McGuire Report presented by Vago Italien. Open 23 years, longevity. Not many restaurants have been open that long. When you're open that long, folks, it means the food is good. It means the service is good. It means the pricing is good. It's when it all comes together, because if it's not, you don't usually last all that long. Private dining rooms for any occasion. I was there a couple of times in the last month, and you can have a TV set up. You can watch the game while you're having a family occasion. It's absolutely beautiful. Birthday party, engagement, corporate meetings, plenty of free parking after 6 p.m. on Green Avenue. Once again, corner of the Maisonneuve. Plenty of free parking. Open Monday to Saturday evenings and lunch from Tuesday to Friday. Fresh quality ingredients, old world Italian classics, new Italian as well. Tommaso at the front, Angelo in the kitchen. Both of them, the most popular men in Westmount, and Vago Italian, the most popular restaurant in Westmount as well. Pierre, if you're a Canadiens fan, you're a member of the Montreal Canadiens, you're a member of the coaching staff, you're a member of the management team, you're a member of the Montreal Canadiens organization. This one hurts, Pierre.
Yeah, that hurt, and especially where the game started. Tony, that can't happen. Joshua Roy can't make a misread on the first goal. Jake Evans can't make, a misread on the second goal. Those are big plays in the game. You can't hang the goalie out like that early on the road. Did they get pushed around? No, they did not. Did they lose a lot of one-on-one battles? No, they did not. Did they make some bad mistakes? Yeah. And I just talked about two in the first period. One that was never talked about on the broadcast, on the English side anyways. Slavkovsky loses a one-on-one battle after Suzuki scrambles a draw. The puck goes back to the point. Eventually the puck gets to the net. They debate whether it's going to be a goal or not for goalie interference. Ty Forster gets the puck, roofs it, makes it. That's what separated the whole thing. And I know, look, I'm not being mean. I'm telling you the facts. If you're a coach and you see that on tape, that guy's in your office tomorrow. That can't happen. He cannot lose that battle, Tony. That was a major play in the game.
I said to you after last game that watching the Canadiens get dismantled by the Blues in St. Louis reminded me of one of those games that they played in the month of October. They lost to St. Louis by a score of 6-1. And in the month of October, and I've said this before and I'm going to say it again, in the second game of the season, they gave up 6 in Boston and they lost. A week later, they gave up 6 at home versus Pittsburgh and they lost. They gave up 7 at home versus the Rangers and they lost. They gave up 8 at home versus Seattle and they lost. They gave up 6 in Washington and they lost. And then things got a little bit better in the month of November to early December. And then things got really good for the Montreal Canadiens from the middle of December to the middle of January. And then they started to hit a lull again. My buddy Jeremy Filosa from 98.5 Cogeco Radio, you know what? He put out a tweet earlier this evening. I'm going to try and get it. That shows the Canadiens are a team that plays in sequences. They're either very hot or they're either very cold. And the last couple of games, the Montreal Canadiens have been very cold. They've been giving up a lot of goals, so much so that we talked about Samuel Montembeault being tired, and maybe the Canadiens should have gone to Dobesh a lot earlier. They went to Dobesh tonight. They didn't win with Dobesh. They lost with Dobesh. He gave up a lot of goals, but quite frankly, I think he probably gave up one that he wanted to have back, which was around the 5 or 6 goal. But prior to that, I think he had no chance on the first 4 goals. So, Pierre, why don't we start with this, if we can, and start with the decision to dress Dobesh tonight? Because last game, I was saying to myself, I don't understand why Montembeault's still in goal after giving up 4 midway through the second. Some people came back and they said, well, because the game's not over yet. They fought back versus Colorado. They probably thought they could fight back versus St. Louis. I said, well, you can't fight back all the time. And by the way, St. Louis was so hot, and they're a tough team to beat in their building. And anyway, long story short, I looked at the schedule and I said, okay, they have St. Louis on Tuesday. They're in Philadelphia on Thursday. They're in Carolina on Friday, and they play Florida on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Chances are the goalie that's going to play Friday night is not going to play on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock because it's going to be 2 games in 36 hours. So I figured Montembeault was Tuesday when I saw him play Tuesday. Montembeault will come back on Thursday. Then he'll play Sunday. Dobesh going to play Friday. Dobesh playing tonight kind of surprised me a little bit. A, did it surprise you, even though we've said that Montembeault's tired? And B, what do you think it means for the goalies for the rest of the trip?
First of all, I wouldn't have played Montembeault on Tuesday. He didn't look like he was ready to play on Saturday.
You said that. You said that.
I said it to you. I told you. No, and I wouldn't have played him on Tuesday, and they did. And then they pulled him. So I would have played Dobesh in St. Louis. It's not a division game. It's not a conference game. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you got to win in your conference. You got to win in your division. You know that Philadelphia is a train wreck, and you'd already figured out when your game was going on Tuesday night that Toronto was putting the boots to them as a coaching staff. So you knew you'd be ready on Thursday. Carolina, you're going in there. It's a hornet's nest, and then you correctly say on Sunday it's a 1 o'clock start against Florida. So I would have no fear at all playing Dobesh in Florida. He's already played there and won, but I would want to make sure that Montembeault was ready for the Philly game. And if you felt really good about himself, play him in Carolina the next day. But I would have given him from Saturday to Thursday off. And I think they misjudged on that. I really do.
Pierre, I think there's one thing that's become apparent, right? We know that the Montreal Canadiens don't have a top 10 goalie in the league this year, with all due respect to Montembeault, who has had some pretty good stats. But we know that the goalies are struggling right now. These goalies are only going to be as good as the players and the system in front of them. These players are making some really bad decisions, and this defensive coverage is looking really, really weak right now. And once again, I get back to what I told you, Pierre, about October, where the hybrid system looked like chickens with no head. They didn't look like they understood it. Quite frankly, we weren't sure that they were going to figure it out. And then at one point, middle of January to middle of December to middle of January, they did figure it out. Can you explain why it looks like they've lost what they had picked up? Because my explanation is fatigue. I don't know how else to explain it, but I'm looking at Mike Matheson. Mike Matheson, with the exception of shutting down McKinnon, I think in 3 of the last 4 games or 4 of the last 5 games, I think Matheson has been really poor.
He's not the only one. There are a lot of other ones. They're fatigued. I'm going to go with what you said before, because I watch the same thing you watch, and I hope the fans are watching the same thing we watch. There's a fatigue factor. To defend hard, to close a gap tight and quick in your own zone requires work habits. It requires effort. And I think these guys have been given effort. I just think they're running out of gas. They've overextended. You know, and I've said this to you, Tony, and I'm not picking a fight. I'm just telling you. Since Jake Evans signed his contract, he's not the same player. Not the same player. He's not winning as many faceoffs. He's not winning as many races. He's not creating as much offense. The penalty killing's not as good. It takes more than just one, but he's a catalyst on it. So there's one example.
That's
Another
bothersome,
example is
Pierre. That's bothersome because we know that a lot of players get pumped up when they're playing in the final year of their contract, right? We know that, okay? However, we've also come to know Jake Evans as a heart and soul guy. We don't want him to be one of those guys. At least we didn't think he was one of those guys, and I'm not saying that he is. But how do you explain that he was that good and wanted to stay here so bad and then signs that deal and has the biggest smile on his face saying how shocked and surprised he was? His bags were packed. The apartment was being painted. He was going to leave. His wife went back to Toronto. And then he's so happy and so excited that he's staying that he's played the worst hockey of the season since then. How do you explain that?
I think he's hit the wall. There's a lot of emotion in there, not just physical, mental too. I just think he needs a deep breath, and not going to have a chance to get it now because of the fast and furious way the games are approaching. So he's one example. He's not the only guy. I'll give you another example. Like, I think Slafkovsky's played really well. I do. But I'm telling you, Tony, you go watch the goal that gets replayed and challenged by Marty St. Louis, and you watch him lose a one-on-one battle for a puck. That can't happen. That's a young guy who's physically fit and strong. He can't lose that battle in that situation. Suzuki did his job. Suzuki scrambled the draw and actually put it behind him. He's got to get support from both the wing and the defense. Slafkovsky loses a battle, puck goes back to the point, puck goes on. I'm shocked they didn't bring it up on the television coverage. I don't know what they did on the French side, Tony, but I can tell you that was never brought up on the English side.
Let's bring up a picture, speaking of goaltender interference. Pierre, is this goalie interference?
So I don't know. When I coached, it was not. But two of the three criteria were definitely met. Was Brink in the blue paint? Yes. Did he touch the goaltender's leg? The answer is yes. So
yeah. At one point, though, a foot in the crease was not supposed to be a goal.
No, that's Fred Hall, 1999. I had a good view for that one, Tony. But the one thing I'd say, to be fair in this one, Forrester scores a goal. I don't think Dobish's ability to stop the puck is affected there. I don't think he's stopping that, because if you watch the finishing part, the puck goes right under the crossbar.
Pierre, we're going to get to the Canadiens. We're going to get to the lineup. We're going to get to the scoring. We're going to get to the post-game reaction. We're going to get to everything, okay? But first and foremost, your thoughts on John Tortorella. There's, I don't know, there was some talk. I think it was Elliot Friedman who reported today that Tortorella actually kind of walked away. What are you hearing, Pierre? Did he walk away? Was he relieved of his duties, or was it after what he said, that they kind of had no other choice? So it's kind of like him walking away and kind of them saying, okay, you know what, we'll give you what you want, type of thing. How did you see it go down?
Well, I'm going to go by what Danny Briere said. I never heard John Tortorella say he was walking away.
Yeah.
I heard Danny Briere say we've relieved him of his duties.
Mm-hmm.
It's a $4 million grammar problem for John Tortorella if you just said what was being reported. I never heard him say that, so I can't speak to that. I would imagine the Flyers will honor his contract. I sure hope they will. Why there was a haste to fire him with 9 games left when you're not making the playoffs is bizarre. If they're saying because he had a frayed relationship with Cam York, take a look at the game tonight. Cam York was stapled to the bench.
Yes.
He didn't play. He didn't play. So I personally am not a fan of what they did. I'm not there, so I don't know what transpired. There could have been conversations with upper management between Keith Jones and Danny Briere and John Tortorella that those guys didn't like, and they're well within their means to let him go if they didn't like some of the things he said. I've coached against John. I've known John a long time, over 35 years. I think he's a real good coach. I do. I know people don't like some of his methods. I heard what Danny Briere said too, Tony, by the way, which I didn't agree with.
Yeah.
He said John's a big personality. He takes up a lot of room in the dressing room, and hopefully this will allow some of the younger guys to grow. It's a good thing that managers didn't think that way when Scotty Bowman was coaching and Toe Blake was coaching and the late Pat Quinn was coaching and Pat Burns was coaching, because Mike Keenan was coaching. Because if they had, those guys never would have had a career.
Yeah, there's this sentiment, Pierre, from the outside, for us that are not there, that at times Michkov had a hard time breathing on the ice because of Tortorella being on him as much as he was. Whether, and I would imagine Tortorella has his methods, and he was just trying to make Michkov better. I get it. I'm not defending Michkov, by the way, because some of the things that some scouts didn't like, I've seen in the last month or so. But you can also tell that when this player is playing with confidence, I think he's got the most 5-on-5 points since out of the four nations. Like 5-on-5, he does pretty well.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing. I didn't bring his name up. I'm using the whole team. I don't even know if Michkov understood everything that Tortorella said to him because they need a translator.
Yes.
So I don't know how that's even relevant. Not from you, but from what Danny said.
Yeah.
But I would just tell you this. I mean, if that's what they're looking at, that he's a hard coach, I'd be worried about what my scouts are doing when they're evaluating the mental strength of the players that they're drafting.
Pierre, can a guy who's a hard coach like that, could he end up being in the right chair if he ends up being an assistant coach when an assistant coach is not supposed to be the hard-nosed guy?
No.
So
I don't see.
If Marty St. Louis is looking for an assistant coach next year,
yeah,
not a fit.
Well, it could be. I mean, I saw him be an assistant for Team USA to Mike Sullivan. It was role reversal because in 2008, I saw Tortorella coach Team USA, and Mike Sullivan was his assistant at the World Championships in Halifax and Quebec City. But do I think it would work now for John to be an assistant on an NHL team? Probably not. At the Olympics, I could say, yeah, I could see him do that. I would be surprised. And maybe as a, eye in the sky or something, I think John would get frustrated being an assistant coach.
If you had $1 and you put it down on Betway, go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200. If your first bet loses, scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older, and please play responsibly. Do you think John Tortorella is going to be a head coach in the National Hockey League again?
I do think he'll have another opportunity. I think if you think your thing's really close and you get a legitimate chance to win and you need a guy to push you over, he's a guy to look at. I'll tell you this: if I were to do a pecking order right now of legitimate guy, Joel Quenneville's at the top of the food chain, Tony.
Yeah.
And then now because John's unemployed, I'd say John's got to be right there, right behind him. But if you were to ask me, I think Quenneville's at the top of the list for everybody.
If there's a certain team that doesn't get it done this year in the playoffs, I would look at Quenneville. Which team do you think I'm talking about?
But in the playoffs, probably Edmonton.
I'm talking about Edmonton.
Yeah, probably Edmonton. I don't rehearse this with you, but I would say Edmonton.
If Edmonton doesn't get it done, I think they got to look at Quenneville next. I don't think they have a choice.
Yeah, no, I would.
You can't. You can't waste Connor.
What happens if the Rangers don't make the playoffs this year?
Yeah, something will definitely happen there. You're right.
You think they're going to hire a neophyte coach? Not a chance.
Yeah,
not a chance.
Let's take a look at the Montreal Canadiens lineup tonight. Suzuki with Slavkovsky on his right and Caulfield on his left. Newhook with Liney on his right and Joshua Roy on his left. Dvorak with Gallagher on his right and Anderson on his left. Heineman with on the left of Evans at center and Army on the right. Matheson, Carrier, Struble, Hudson, Jack-Eye, Savard, and Jakub Dobish was in goal. Pierre, there's a couple of players that I like tonight. There's a couple of things that I liked. I liked Patrick Liney a lot. I liked Patrick Liney tonight. I thought he was very, very involved in this hockey game. I think he had 5 shots on goal. I think he missed 5 shots. I like Liney. I like Alex Newhook, who's looking more and more comfortable at center. I mean, the way he's moving his feet, the way he's carrying the puck, the way he's gaining speed through the neutral zone and attacking that offensive zone. And Newhook is starting to show me and prove to me that he could be that number 3 center next year. He's still not going to prove to me that he's the number 2 center. I'm not, that's too much for him, I think. But I think he could be a great number 3 center.
See, I think he's going to be a great third-line winger. I'd prefer that speed to stretch zones out. I don't want to put that defensive responsibility on him.
Yeah, but don't you find we're seeing that speed a lot more since he's been playing center? Like I thought he was a winger. I thought he was a winger too, Pierre.
No, what you're saying is totally true. But I think when this lineup is set the right way, we'll see. Like, where are you going to play Owen Beck? Owen Beck's going to be on your team next year. So where's he playing?
Is Kapanen going to be on the team too?
I don't know that.
Is Dvorak going to be on the team?
No.
Well, then Owen Beck's going to take Dvorak's role.
Okay, so then do you think that going forward, Newhook can be your second line center with a playoff team?
Well, then no. If we put it that way, then no.
That's why I'm asking. So
Yeah.
I think this team is ready to take the next step. They're going to have to look outside to get that second center right now. Like, let's say Demidov comes. You think Demidov's coming, right?
Yes.
So you have a second line of Demidov lining, and then what's missing?
And you know what? Not to mention that there's a chance that Kirby Dach's probably going to play wing next year too, because I don't think the Montreal Canadiens want to continue with Kirby Dach at center.
That experiment's been tried. It didn't work.
No.
So I agree with you on that too. So I'm just saying, why couldn't you have? It's just a question. Why couldn't you have a line with Newhook, Owen Beck, and Josh Anderson?
You definitely can.
Why couldn't you have a line with Brendan Gallagher, Heineman, and Evans?
You definitely can.
So what's the one thing missing? You're missing the 2-hole.
Yeah.
You're missing the 2-hole.
No doubt about it. Let's take a look at the scoring. But before we do, Pierre, in the last couple of days, there's been much talk about Caden Gooley being on this road trip with the Montreal Canadiens, and Caden Gooley set to return at some point. Marty St. Louis doesn't know when he's going to return. He doesn't even know if he's going to return on this road trip. But it's been much talked about. And, you know, everyone's been saying that the easy guy to take out of the lineup is Struble, because he's Struble, and David Savard is a fan favorite, and for the Francophones, and Arbor Jackeye is a fan favorite as well. And Savard is a penalty killer, and Savard's got experience, and he's a cup winner and all that stuff. Pierre, this would be a travesty to take Jaden Struble out of the lineup.
He's the most improved player on the team.
He's the most improved player on the team. You're right.
He is the most improved player on the team. He is. So I wouldn't take him out. And I have nothing against Arbor, nothing against David. I think, if anything, you give David a little rest. Gooley can play the left side or the right side. One day David's out, one day Arbor's out. You know, outside of St. Louis pushing them around, which they did, I don't care what anybody says. St. Louis pushed them around. Arbor didn't really stabilize that game. I'm sure he wanted to, but he didn't. And so I don't think going forward, I look at the schedule, I don't see the Canes getting pushed around by too many people.
Did Marty St. Louis already tell us what his decision is going to be when Gooley's back and healthy? Did he already tell us tonight? Arbor Jackeye got only 10 minutes. David Savard got 4 minutes and 20 seconds more than him. And with all due respect to David Savard, there were instances tonight, Pierre, where I found he had a really hard time with his mobility. It was laborious to watch him move. Arbor Jackeye got 10 minutes and 5 seconds, Pierre.
Yeah, no, I'm watching the same game. The one thing I'll say on Savard's behalf, the pass he made to Newhook in the first period was a great play. You got
yes.
We can give him a little punch in the pants. You also got to give him a little pat on the back.
1,000%.
It was an excellent play by him. Excellent.
Yes, it was. Yes,
so
it was.
I give him credit for that. But when they needed offense, because they fell behind, they were chasing the game, Tony. Those guys aren't playing when they're chasing the game. They're just not going to play. There's no offense from them.
And cheers. Cheers. Let me just get the beer here. Brought to you by Bittt Tibi. Let's bring up a graphic on Lane Hudson if we can. We have it. The graphic on Lane Hudson. He becomes the third rookie defenseman in NHL history to score 50-plus assists in a season, joining Chris Chelios and Larry Murphy. Pierre, for rookie defenseman, Larry Murphy holds it with 60 assists. He holds the record in his rookie defenseman season. Lane Hudson is on pace for about 58, I think. He's got 51. He's on pace for about 58. Murphy's got 60. If I were a betting man, I'd put $1 on this kid, because it just seems like he breaks record after record after record. Brought to you by Bittt TV. They launched their new Ultra Lager, and it's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for nice spring days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. In Montreal, the talk is starting to to heat up as well, Pierre. We talked about it last week with you and Max Lapierre. What's the number going to be? And if I'm his agent, you know, he doesn't have to, you don't have to sell potential. He just has to show what he's doing this year and all the stats. And it speaks for itself. I have a feeling it's going to be easy for him.
I told you when we did this discussion, I said easy negotiation. It's not those aren't hard negotiations. Look at what Washington just did with Jacob Chikrin. 8 years, $9 million a year. So Pierre,
if Chikrin got nine,
yeah,
how much should Hudson get?
Well, you're going to start at 9 and you're going to have a scale that goes upwards. But that if you're the agent, that's what you're doing. So, I originally thought it would be Jake Sanderson, which is right around 8.
Yeah.
But then Washington goes and does this with Chikrin, and you're saying, okay, seriously, I'm asking the question. I'm not making a statement, so you can answer it. Would you trade Jacob Chikrin for Lane Hudson right now?
If I was Washington?
No. If you were Montreal?
No,
you wouldn't.
No, absolutely not.
No. Okay. We agree.
So Jacob Chikrin's played, I think, 2 full seasons in his NHL career. He's 9 years into his NHL career. He's been with 3 teams, and he's never picked up more than 43 points. I mean, he signed for $9 million a year.
I'm not making a statement. I had the honor of coaching his father in 2 cities. I coached his father, Jeff, in Pittsburgh, and I brought him to Hartford with me. And his dad was tough as nails. He was a tough guy and a really good person. And I look at the kid's a good kid. I've talked to him, and he's a good player. Is he better than Lane Hudson? No, he's not.
No. All right, let's get to the scoring in tonight's hockey game. All right, so Michkov, assists go to Konechny and Couturier. And Pierre, you know, like you just talked about the coverage, a minute 55 into the hockey game. And I want to bring up another graphic regarding the Canadiens' slow starts, Pierre, and then we'll get back to the scoring in a second. Let's bring up the graphic. They've given up the opening goal. This is courtesy of Habs on Reddit. In 40 of 71 games going into tonight's game. Or with tonight's game. And they've allowed 72 goals in the first period. That's the 6th worst in the National Hockey League. Like, what does this tell you? I mean, obviously, more often than not, they're not ready to start hockey games, and their focus isn't nearly where it should be. Like, if I'm Jeff Gorton and or Kent Hughes at the end of the season, and I analyze everything that went right, and I analyze everything that went wrong, and I look for areas of improvement, and I look at our first periods, and I see that. What am I thinking? Put on your GM hat for me. What goes through your mind?
The first person I'm going to talk to is a trainer. I want to know what's going on behind the scenes. I want to debrief the trainer. I want to debrief the captain. I want to debrief the assistant coaches. I want to debrief the strength and conditioning coaches. I want to debrief the people that are involved with the players up until the coach makes a pregame presentation. And I'll say, what did you like? What didn't you like? Why has this thing gone so south coming out of the gate? How could this happen? What are we doing that's not working? Or maybe what are we not doing? And so I would debrief people that are around the group and then eventually get to the group.
All right. For all of you that are watching right now, there are some games that are going on right now. But as far as the teams that are concerned that are in the Montreal Canadiens division or the Montreal Canadiens conference, I can tell you that Buffalo just destroyed Pittsburgh by a score of 7-3 tonight. It's sad to see that happen to Sid the Kid, but at the same time, he's got his 3 Stanley Cups and a couple of gold medals. Ottawa with a huge win in Detroit, 4-3, and they were able to do it in regulation. Tampa Bay absolutely ate up and spit out Utah by a score of 8-0. The Capitals lost by a score of 4-2. And once again, the Montreal Canadiens lose to the Philadelphia Flyers by a score of 6-4. We'll get back to the scoring in a second. Let's take a look at the standings and the wild card in the East. Ottawa still holds on to the first wild card spot. The Canadiens have 75 points. They're 6 points behind Ottawa, and Ottawa is starting to run away here. The Islanders, keep in mind, the Canadiens will be in Ottawa on Friday, April 11. And keep in mind that Ottawa plays 3 games between now and the end of the year versus Columbus. The New York Islanders have 1 point less than the Canadiens. They played the same amount of games. The Rangers have 1 point less than the Canadiens. They've played 1 more game. The Columbus Blue Jackets are 2 points away from the Canadiens. The Blue Jackets have a game in hand. The Red Wings are 3 points away from the Canadiens. They've played 1 more game. The Bruins are 6 points away from the Canadiens, and the Bruins have played 2 more games. I think we could say the Bruins are out of it. At least I think so.
Anything below Detroit's done.
I agree with you. This one really hurts, Pierre. I said this before. I think I'm going to say it 1,000 times between now and tomorrow. You just lost. You're playing on a 4-game road trip in St. Louis, Philadelphia, Carolina, and Philadelphia. Back-to-back tomorrow night. 3 games and 4 nights tomorrow night. 4 games and 5.5 days on Sunday. And you lost to a team that had won 1 of their last 12 games. And you gave up 6 goals.
Yeah, no, and they got a coach fired this morning. There's a lot of mayhem around that group. I give them credit, but I also know just when most people are burying the Montreal Canadiens, they find this special gear, at least this season they have, and they find a way to come back. I sure hope they can do that tomorrow. I really do. A win tomorrow would erase this game and give them a fighting chance on Sunday. But if you don't win tomorrow night, there's probably not a very good chance you're going to get any points in this trip. And that's not very comforting.
By the way, Pierre, I just saw something beautiful as I have one eye on what's going on, of course, elsewhere in the National Hockey League. The Minnesota Wild at home beat the Washington Capitals by a score of 4-2. I don't know if you had a chance to see this. The game's over and all the Capitals are going right away back to the dressing room.
Marc-Andre.
Alexander Ovechkin goes over and grabs everyone and says, come back out here. Where are you guys going? Go shake that man's hand. That's pretty cool.
I don't even know, Tony, how many games I had the honor of broadcasting between Pittsburgh and Washington over the years. And they had one of the best internal competitions. And they would smile at each other and gesture towards one another. You know, people forget Marc-Andre Fleury was a goalie of record in 2 of Ovechkin's World Juniors, 2003 in Halifax and 2004 in Helsinki. People forget that. Ovechkin played in 3 World Juniors, and Fleury was a goalie of record for 2 of those 3 when Canada played against Russia. And then it carries over. Obviously, Pittsburgh and Washington for almost 16 years was as hellacious as any rivalry there was in the National Hockey League. So that's so classy by Alexander Ovechkin to do that. That's great.
So, Pierre, here's the stats I was telling you before from my buddy Jeremy Filosa. From the 9th of October to the 1st of December, the Canadiens had a record of 8-13-3. From the 2nd of December to the 21st of January, they had a record of 16-6-1. From the 22nd of January to the 9th of February, which was right up until the Four Nations, they had a record of 1-7-1. They won 1 of 9 games. Coming out of the Four Nations after that, their first 5 games, they were 5-0. Since then, they're 3-3-4.
Yeah.
You know, which is 10 points in 10 games. So they're playing 500 in their last 10 after playing 5-0 coming out of the Four Nations. Before the Four Nations face-off, they had hit a wall, Pierre. They had won 1 of 9 games. They look like they've hit that wall again. And that happens, Pierre, right? With a lot of teams that overachieve, a lot of teams that have holes, and they ask some players to step up and be in chairs that they're not used to, or play a lot more minutes, or start a lot more games than they're accustomed to. That can happen. I think that's what's happening to the Canadiens.
That's what's happening. No, that is so eloquent, the way you presented that. Absolutely. Totally agree.
Let's get back to the scoring if we can, Pierre. All right, Alex Newhook, we talked about Lane Hudson to David Savard, that great pass that springs Newhook free. And how about this one? On the Delorier goal, right? Savard and Jacky, they get beat to loose pucks, Pierre. They get beat to loose pucks, and they don't do a really good job, and they leave Delorier all alone in front of the net.
Well, Jake Evans. I'm sorry, Tony.
Yeah,
that plays on Jake Evans. Watch the tape.
Yeah, I'm going to go watch it right now. But they beat the Canadiens to a loose puck.
That's true.
What I didn't understand here, and if I'm not mistaken, is I think that Jacky and Savard were back on the ice when the Philadelphia Flyers scored a minute and 2 seconds later, which was Couturier scoring the goal, which, by the way, was Pelletier drops it back to Michkov, who takes a wrist shot, and it goes off of Couturier's knee as he was screening in front. Now, Pierre, I'm watching this goal go in. So the Flyers have now scored 2 goals in a minute and 2 seconds. They've scored 3 goals in 8 to 9 minutes. And I'm saying, call a timeout. I know Marty doesn't like to do it because he likes to use TV timeouts and save his timeout for the end of the game. But were you screaming timeout at 3-1, Pierre? Yes or no, and why?
I was not at that point, no.
You were not, eh?
I was not at that point, no.
You know what? The Flyers hit a crossbar 30 seconds after that 3-1 goal.
I'm aware. I watched this. I did not say, I'm being totally honest. I had that game going on, and I'm watching college games and NHL. So I got a lot going on, but I did not say to call a timeout. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. I thought he should have called a timeout because they showed that he really gave it to them at the TV timeout. He did, but I think the TV timeout was like 3 minutes later. And, they hit the crossbar. If they scored that goal, like the Canadiens were, like they were in a world of trouble. Yep. They scored that goal. It's 4-1 at that point. Anyway. All right. Okay. So there you have it. More scoring after that. And then everything opened up. Cole Caulfield, he gets one in close, of course. Lane Hudson gets another assist on the play. Forster scores. Couturier scores.
That's the one you need to watch. That's the one that really upset me, the Forster goal.
Yeah.
Just telling you
cannot
lose those one-on-one battles on faceoffs deep in your own zone. Cannot do it.
Yeah. Couturier scores the fourth goal, the goal by Couturier. I think he would have liked to have had that one back, Pierre. Mind you, he was in close on a 2-on-1. Michkov was in close a couple of minutes later. Dvorak was able to pull the Canadiens a little bit, and then Michkov, and then Patrick Laine gets his 18th of the season with the assist going to Slavkovsky and Suzuki. Shots are 30-30, 11-10 in the first for Philadelphia, 8-5 for the Canadiens in the second, 14-12 for Philly in the third, 30-30. Pierre, I want to bring up the schedule the rest of the way, but before we do, just a quick shout out to Playground. The World Series of Poker Circuit Playground is back. The World Series of Poker Circuit returns to Playground from March 24th to April 8th. It's bigger than ever. Over 3.3 million guaranteed. Your shot at the World Series of Poker Circuit Gold. 1.5 million guaranteed main event, 500,000 guaranteed Colossus with a $300 buy-in, 300,000 guaranteed mega stack, high roller, 18 chances to win a World Series of Poker Circuit ring. Don't miss out on poker's biggest festival. The action starts March 24th, or it did a couple of days ago. Visit playground.ca for the full schedule. Pierre, we're going to get to some questions and we're going to get to some calls. But before we do, I want to bring up the standings one more time so that we can see it. The Canadiens have a point up on the Islanders, same games, a point up on the Rangers, 1 game in hand, 2 points up on Columbus, who have a game in hand on the Canadiens. 3 points up on Detroit. Canadiens have a game in hand. Let's stop that. Here's the rest of the schedule for March and April. Tomorrow night, they're in Carolina. Sunday afternoon, they're in Florida. They come back a couple of days later to Montreal. It's the first game back, going to be after being away from home for about a week.
Yep.
And they'll host Florida. 2 nights later, they're going to host the Bruins. 2 nights after that, they'll host the Flyers. They'll be in Nashville the next night. Then versus Detroit, that'll be a 3-4 for the Canadiens. And then 3 nights after that, they'll be in Ottawa on the 11th. The next night, they'll be in Toronto. Couple nights after, they're going to play Chicago at home. And they'll finish off the season, the regular season, with Carolina at home. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 games left in the Montreal Canadiens season, regular season, 5 of which will be on the road, 6 of which will be at home. Pierre, every schedule has challenges. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm worried about the next couple of games.
So am I. So am I.
Yeah.
And you made a really good point, by the way. The game on the 1st, I know it's a 1:00 start on Sunday, but you still got to travel. You're getting back, Sunday night. You got probably a day off Monday. You're playing Tuesday. It comes fast that week. That first week, April, comes fast. But here's what I do notice. 5 of your games that are left are against non-playoff teams. Boston's not getting in. Philly's not getting in. Nashville's not getting in. And I think Detroit and Chicago's definitely not getting in. And I think Detroit's hanging by a thread. That loss tonight to Ottawa really hurt Detroit.
Yeah.
So, that's the good news. That's 10 possible points against non-playoff teams. That's good news. The big thing is tomorrow and Sunday, Tony, if they could ever find a way to get points out of those 2 games,
Yeah.
that's a huge benefit. Huge benefit.
The other good news is that they'll finish off their season at home, their last 2 games, right? They're going to play at home, and if they really need those wins, I mean, they're going to have the crowd behind them. The atmosphere is going to be absolutely nuts. If you could pick up points, Pierre, you're right. It'll be pretty important because you just know that Ottawa and Toronto would love to put Montreal in some trouble. Right?
Well, they also want to try to climb. Toronto's trying to cement first place. You got to stay out of the 2-3 hole in the Atlantic. You need to. If you're Toronto in particular, you do not want to be. No, I don't think anybody in their right mind right now wants to play Tampa. I just don't think anybody does.
No. My God, it's unbelievable the way they're rocking and rolling.
Tony, you got to stay away from those guys. They're dangerous. I'm telling you. If Florida plays Tampa, last year Florida beat them in 5 games. That could be serious role reversal this year. Serious. I'm telling you, Tampa's at another level right now.
They're firing on all cylinders right now.
They're at a whole other level.
All right. Okay. Let's get to your questions and let's get to your calls at 1-888-585-7425, 1-888-585-SICK. And we'll get to some of your questions. Your turn to ask Pierre. Art Shattuck says, Pierre, I know you blame Joshua Roy and Evans for the first 2 goals, but is it a new defensive strategy to have your defensemen play either both below the goal line or out near the blue line?
Well, they're playing man-to-man, so it's pretty easy. There are 2 men behind the net. If you identify your 2 guys, you go to them right away, and then the centerman's got a lock in the slot. It's pretty simple. But they're playing a hybrid man-to-man. So look at the centerman's there. He's watching the puck. Here's what you need to know, Art, more than anything else. You got to know your area, and you got to know who you got to cover in your area. And both those centermen, and I know Joshua was not a centerman, he's a winger, but he had slot responsibility. That's how the slide worked. He's got that guy. And the same thing with Jake Evans. I know everybody didn't like to hear that, but the truth is that this is the game that we grew up playing in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. This is a straight man-to-man. People don't play the dice or box and 1 anymore. Those systems disappeared.
Pierre, Marty St. Louis after the loss tonight, who, by the way, after last loss said that, it was fertilizer for them. They were going to grow from it. Tonight he says, to me, it's a little bit of pressure versus pleasure. We got to have fun with this. With this 10, 11 games we have left, we got to have fun with it. We got to be direct and have good intentions, but we have to have fun to go into this process. Everyone is disappointed. You come out of this game, it doesn't seem like fun, but if you take a snapshot of where we are right now, it should still be fun. We're going to have to remind them of that.
That's good.
You said at around this time of year, you always have to focus on positives, right?
Yep.
But do you find he's doing a good job of focusing on the positives, but at the same time, trying to keep a level of urgency, but maybe trying to remove some of that pressure?
I think
Like,
he's
how
trying
do you-
to, yeah, that's perfect. He's deflecting. He wants the pressure on his shoulders. He's handled it before. He's won the cup as a player. He's been to the Stanley Cup final other times. He knows. He's played in the Olympics. He knows. He's deflecting for his players. I admire that a lot. I admire it a lot.
He also said they know they're a good team. It's a hard league. There's no easy games. They know they're a good team. We call that positive reinforcement, Pierre?
I think so. I don't see that how that's negative. This whole thing tonight was weird, although I know I think his name was Art, and Art, I really appreciate your question, but I would tell you right now, like, you can say whatever you want about the D being behind the icing line or being up at the blue line. You have slot coverage at the center. You know, when you're the first forward back, that's your job. That's preached all the time, and those guys didn't do their job.
All right, we'll get back to the phone calls. I'm hearing that Brendan Gallagher had quite a few things to say. We'll see if we can get that audio between now and the end of the show. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Back to the phone calls we go to right now. Let's go to Luke. Hello, Luke.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
Very good. How are you?
Thanks, Luke.
I'm doing well, thanks. Tough game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm just going to ask you guys a couple of questions. Well, just one question, really. Remember we was talking about, Gooley's on this road trip with the guys, and that's a good thing. Getting back with the guys and being on the road. So when he's ready to play, who do you take out? Because a lot of guys are playing well in the D.
Well, if I can, Luke, if I can, Pierre, if I can, I said this earlier in the show, whether this is the people's choice or not, Marty St. Louis gave Arbor Jackeye only 10 minutes of ice time tonight. He gave him 10 minutes and 5 seconds. He gave David Savard 14 minutes and 25 seconds. And if you're wondering, Jaden Struble, he gave Struble 19 minutes tonight. And Struble and Hudson are unbelievable together. And on a night where the Canadiens gave up 6 tonight, they were excellent together again. Not perfect, but very good.
Struble's been like...
I don't know how Struble can come out, Luke. Luke, I don't know how Struble can come out.
I don't think either. I think it's going to... Well, we never know, right, what the coaching staff's thinking and, what the D coach is thinking as well. So, but, yeah, Struble's been... He's been right on, and he's been one of their best players in the back end.
Pierre, they've been their best defense pairing now for I don't know how long, since they've been put together. You can't break up a defense pairing that's working.
I don't know why they would. I don't think they will. But we'll see. I mean, I like what Luke just said. We're not the coaches, but, I think we have a pretty good feel for it as a group. And I can't see how they would do that to Lane Hudson in particular. He looks very comfortable playing with Jaden Struble.
Very, very comfortable. Mind you, Giuliano says, Pierre, you go with 11 forwards and 7D when Gooley comes back. I know Marty St. Louis had mentioned that he doesn't like using that, but Heineman and Roy each played 8 minutes tonight, and you're basically using kind of like 11 forwards anyway.
I brought that up to you the last show we did.
Yeah.
I said that they should go 11-7 to start, just to ensure their hand. Doesn't matter if you take Roy out. Doesn't matter if you want to take Heineman out and leave Roy, and I don't care. Go 11-7 if Gooley can play. And if he can't in the middle of a game, at least you've insured your hand.
Let's go to Dave. Dave, you there? Welcome to the Habs post game. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Tony? How you doing, Pierre?
Good.
Very
Dave.
good. Thank you.
For the call.
I just want to bring up the challenge of the goal by Marty, and I want to get you guys' opinion on this. Being that the rule is it's so hard to understand the rule, what is goalie interference and what isn't. Do you feel that a more experienced goalie, that they try to sell it more? Like if Dobas had just moved a little bit, tried to sell it just with his right leg, moved a little bit, and they would have gotten the call if he had just sold it, and that's the inexperience of Dobas.
I don't know enough about that, but I'm listening to you. I just don't know, Dave. That's just my own opinion. I don't know. I would say probably not.
Yeah, I was just watching. I mean, I watched the game with the Rangers and Columbus, and that disallowed goal in front of the net.
No, I think you're talking about the Islanders in Columbus.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Islanders in Columbus. Yeah.
Palmieri in front of the goal.
Yeah.
100% he sold that to the refs. He sold it 100%.
I agree with that. But that's a totally different situation. That's a goalie that's standing up. The other guy's scrambling to make a save, go from the right post to the left post. I don't know how he sells that. That's a tough way to sell it when you're on your hands and knees.
Right. But you had brought it up earlier, Pierre, and you said that two criteria were met for goal.
Yeah, for sure. Two of the three criteria were met to wave that goal off. There's no question.
Yeah, but it's, you know what, to overturn it, it's hard to overturn those.
Well, at the end of the day, common sense would say there was no interference to stop the goalie from making a save. Like, that puck was going in.
Yes.
That was the same with the Islanders game. He wasn't making.
They made a mistake in the Islanders. That was a bad mistake. Yeah. I've talked to enough officials now. Even they will say, under being protected, they would say that was a goal.
Pierre, you talked about Jake Evans before and the fact that he's
the subject one bit here, Pierre. I totally agree with you on goalie coming back, that they should rotate it between Arbor and David Soulard. And what do you think of them maybe carrying 7 defensemen?
I think they should, to insulate their hand, for sure. I really think they should, Dave. I think they should.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate taking the time. Pierre, I was saying that you talked about Jake Evans before and that he's having a hard time. He struggled mightily in the face-off circle tonight. He only won 4 of 13 draws for 31%. I mean, he's
Tony, I see it every night. I feel bad because I'm a huge fan of the player, but I've watched it, and you can go track from the time he got his contract to where he is now. He might be hurt and playing through it, and I don't know it.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing too, in defense of the player. I don't want to just go full bore and say he's got to, because you never know. He could be hurt and he's playing through it, but he doesn't look like the same player. He doesn't have the same acceleration. He's not dominating faceoffs. He's not anywhere near as effective penalty killing wise. And, he's not manufacturing the same chances he was earlier in the season. And again, I don't know if he's hurt or not, but I know he's not the same player. I can tell you that.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines if we can. Let's go to Adam. Adam, you there?
Yes.
Adam, what's on your mind?
Yeah. It just seems to me that Joshua Roy is just not living up to some of the potential. He seems disinterested in a lot of the play. And is it time maybe you guys think to have someone else come up and give it another go?
Well, I've been kind of touching on that, Adam. It's not that I think he's disinterested. I just think right now he's having a hard time figuring out what his role is going to be with the team. Is he supposed to go pound on people on the forecheck? He's supposed to be a slick playmaker. Is he supposed to just distribute and defer to Newhook and Laine? I think he's trying to figure out what he's got to be as a player, and it's not working right now, I don't think.
So should that not be defined by Marty Siloni and the coaching staff saying, hey, this is what we need from you ahead of the time so he can prove his worth? And yeah, we know he's versatile and can do other things, but this is what we need from you right now in this playoff push?
Yes, 100%.
I think that if Joshua Roy is involved in a trade at some point, I'm not so sure the Canadiens are going to regret it. The only problem is, based on what he's shown other teams thus far in the National Hockey League, I'm not so sure he's the first guy they're asking for when Kent Hughes picks up the phone and tries to acquire a player from another team. I know you love them in Laval, Pierre, but it's been far from conclusive at the National Hockey League level, right?
But I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
His play in Laval has been very good, but his play up here has been inconsistent.
More questions? Ask Pierre. It's your chance, and we'll get to some of your calls. Hey, by the way, for all of you watching, before we get to that question, Sammy's Gala is coming up, all right? So the Cavaleros host a fundraiser gala pretty much every year. They started probably give or take about 20 years ago. And I used to go all the time. They used to have it around Valentine's. And then during COVID, for about a stretch of 3 or 4 years, they didn't have the party for obvious reasons. And it's back. and it's going to be back on April 5th at Plaza Volare. Not so sure. Can we bring up the brochure? Can we? Not so sure if we can bring up the brochure. Anyway, we can't. We'll bring it up a little bit later on. But it's going to be on Saturday, April 5th at Plaza Volare. And of course, it's a full meal and it's open bar and there's unbelievable entertainment. Tickets are $225. You get a tax receipt back for about $100 worth, and that's it. So, 1 second, Pierre. Sorry to do this. Hello, Carmen. I'm live on my podcast. Okay, if you don't mind, the podcast that I host weeknights at 10 p.m. Thank you. Okay, bye. All right. That was our hockey pool partner, Pierre, that kept on buzzing me. I think we're having a good night in the hockey pool. Frankie, let's go to Frankie. Frankie, you there?
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I have a question about Marty St. Louis.
Tell me.
So, his coaching style is kind of like forgiving, I'd say. And more with the young guys, he's forgiving. And I was wondering what the message he sends when someone makes a mistake and he keeps sending them out there. And what do you guys think about that?
Who are you referring to?
Coaching? Well, tonight, Mike Matheson.
Yeah, Mike Matheson's making a lot of mistakes, but he's
one of their best guys. They have no choice.
He's his workhorse.
It's unfortunate, but when you're going through we got to remember too. I want to defend Mike and I want to defend the organization. They're playing with house money right now, Tony. You know it, and I know it. You got to be realistic. Like, this team's not deep enough to be an elite team in the league right now. Are they getting better? They're getting better all the time. Has Kent and Jeff done a really good job? Yeah. Has Marty done a good job? Yeah, I think he has. Has his staff done a good job? I think they have. But we got to be honest here. This is not a very deep team. These guys are just barely hanging on right now.
You know what, Pierre? I think I said it before. When you're not good enough and you're not deep enough and you're asking everyone to do more and putting certain players in certain chairs or giving them 4 or 5 minutes more than you should, it catches up with you.
Yes.
Mike Matheson gets killed on social media that he's awful and he's rotten and he's this and he's that and whatever, blah, blah, blah. He plays 26 or 27 minutes per game for a reason. A, he's got the cardio to do so. B, he's got a coaching staff that feel like they absolutely need him to play all those minutes. In an ideal world, Mike Matheson would not be on the penalty kill, and he would take 3 or 4 minutes off of his ice time per game, and he would be a lot better off for it. But he's sacrificing himself for the team because the coach keeps on throwing him out over there. So it's a young defense core. It's young.
It's very young. It's unproven, and they're hanging in there pretty well. If the playoffs started tonight, they're still in.
And who would have thought that?
Nobody. After the October and part of November that this team had, nobody thought they'd be where they are right now. No chance.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. We have, who do we have? We have Jimmy. Jimmy, you there? Jimmy, you there? Jimmy?
Hey, Tony.
Jimmy, how are you?
Good, you?
Good, thank you. You're on with Pierre McGuire. Go ahead, ask Pierre.
Hey, Pierre, I don't want to go back in time, but there's something that I was pretty convinced over all this last decade. When you interviewed with the Habs for the GM position, was I always felt that probably the reason you weren't hired was because you were going to use Carey Price as a trade to rebuild the Habs.
That's not true.
So that wasn't part of your plan at all at the time?
That was never brought up in the meetings at all. Never once. One of the things we talked about was how we were going to move some players that were breaking salary cap situations. And one of the things that was brought up in one of the meetings was, would you buy them out or trade them? And I said, it's your money. You got to give me the permission to buy them out. And if you don't, then I'll trade them. but Carey Price's name never came up once. Never once.
Had you had any intention of making that move if you were hired?
No.
So, Pierre, if you were hired, you would not have gone the way of a rebuild back in the day because you had Carey Price?
We would have had a rebuild, but it would have been not with Carey Price being moved out. He was a valuable asset.
Would it have been a rebuild or a reset?
Probably a reset. There was a lot of good stuff, at that time. There were certain things that needed to be identified. There needed to be more size with the team. They weren't a very big team at the time. I think you would agree with that.
They needed help at center.
They needed desperate help at center. They needed elite defense. There were certain things internally that had to get fixed.
Andre, you there?
Yes, I am.
How are you?
Good, Tony. Hi, Pierre. It's a pleasure.
Hey, Andre.
Having a conversation with you. I guess one of the other callers touched on it. I'm concerned about how many minutes Matheson gets, and I know that he's got to lug a lot of time due to the inexperienced defense. But I guess now we know how much Goulet is and how much minutes that he can ease off on Matheson, and maybe wouldn't be in this situation. So I just want to know, because of that, do you think that maybe they can kind of alter his time to maybe ease a little bit more time, maybe give a little bit more time to distribute a bit more time to the other defense? That's something I want to hear your opinion on. And the other thing I want to ask you, Pierre, is, and I know that I'm looking at these goaltenders. When you see a goaltender, and like I was at a Buffalo game this season, and the one they got out, they were outscored, but they won the game in Buffalo. But I didn't see any reaction from Montembeault when he got pulled. Do you see a goaltender when they get pulled, they don't do anything? And does that concern you? Like maybe having more intensity to say, I really had a bad game, and they get mad, maybe break a stick. I don't see that from Montembeault. And I look at goalies like Patrick Watt, even Carey Price at certain instances when he used to break his stick over his knee. Do you think that maybe they lack that little bit of intensity or that little bit of oomph to maybe it transpires through the team also when a goalie does that? And I'll hear what you got to say.
No, but stay there because I'd like to answer too. Pierre, go ahead.
Well, I'll talk on the goalie part. Every goalie is different. I don't think it's one size fits all. I've seen Eddie Belfour pulled in a Stanley Cup final and not be happy. I've seen Patty obviously not be happy in Montreal, especially with the stuff with Mario in Detroit. But, every guy's different. I've had some really combative guys, and I've had some passive guys. I don't think it affects the bench. I don't think that affects the bench very much.
Andre, I'd like to tackle now what you just said, right?
And the game, we're not getting that right now.
Hold on a sec. Okay. I don't know who's playing the clip, but please take it off. Andre, I want to say something. You asked if, you said Montembeault doesn't get upset, and you said, Patrick Waugh used to do this, and Carey Price used to do that. Montembeault is not Patrick Waugh, he's not Carey Price, and he's not even close. So chances are he's not going to do a lot of things that they used to do. Right?
I agree. Sometimes I want to see it.
I understand, but
I wanted to do. I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
No, I get where you're at too. I got two brothers. One's really intense like I am, and one's not. We're from the same gene pool. There's not one size fits all. Everybody's different, and I get what you're saying. Trust me, I get what you're saying.
You see Fowler in his games in college. He's exactly like that. He's like that.
Okay, so the one instance you're talking about happened at the University of Connecticut. He got run over. The team ended up losing, and he lost his mind. But I also saw Jacob Fowler show no resistance at all in the Hockey East quarterfinals when he lost to Northeastern 3-1. So, I don't know. It's like I said, I think he's calm, cool, and collected. He was mad at that game at University of Connecticut because he got run by a guy. And I get it, too, because playing against UConn's no fun. They're a hard forechecking team. He just got mad that night. But more times than not, Jacob Fowler's calm, cool, and collected. I can tell you that. I've seen him. I've seen him a lot.
Appreciate taking the time, Andre. Thanks so much. Back to the phone lines we go. At 1-888-585-7425, the Montreal Canadiens lose a big one in Philadelphia by a score of 6-4. Michkov had a couple of goals in this hockey game, and so did Sean Couturier. Michkov actually had a chance at his first ever NHL career hat trick, but he rang one off the post with a couple of seconds left in an open net, and I have him in my pool, and if I lose the pool by a point, I think I'm going to go nuts. Ray, what's going on?
Yes.
Ray, what's going on?
Just calling from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia.
Okay.
Yeah. So just driving me nuts. Alex Nowak fired the puck over the net. I don't know how many times within the last few games. When I still coach, I teach my kids, shoot the puck at the net. Pick your spot where you want to score.
Yeah, well, he also scored in the top corner, though. You didn't say that.
No. Great shot. But then,
well,
almost right after that, he fired her over the net. And
I understand, but you know what? He fired in the top corner, and like 17 or 18 guys on his team tonight did not.
Yeah, I know. Also, if I'm taking somebody out of the game for goalie, maybe Carrier.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. Sorry. You lost me on that one. You lost me on that one.
Well, I mean, who else are you going to take out?
Who else am I going to take out? I'll take out Jacky or Savard before Carrier any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Are you kidding me or what? You would keep Jacky and Savard in the lineup before Carrier?
The only reason I say give him a little rest.
Yeah.
And then put goalie in and see what happens.
All right. So you're going to go with David Savard as your only righty on defense by taking Carrier out?
Well, that's the issue.
You coach, you said?
A little bit, yeah. Just
the
kids.
A little bit, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, buddy. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome. I'm sorry. What do you want me to say? He wants to carry out of the lineup.
Yeah.
Say it ain't so, Pierre.
Well, sometimes you just misspeak. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I think he did. Yeah. But you take a look at the distribution of the ice time that Marty St. Louis gives his players, and you take a look at him giving Arbor Jacky 10 minutes tonight. You take a look at him giving David Savard 14 minutes and 25 seconds tonight.
Yeah.
And you take a look at him giving Carrier 18-21. He's not taking Carrier out of the lineup.
No.
Now, the duo of Carrier and Matheson, they've been in trouble in the last couple of games because I think Matheson hasn't been very good.
No.
But,
I agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah. Let's take a question. I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry if I don't want to make the caller feel bad. He's welcome to call back anytime, but I mightily disagree with this comment. That's all. Double Chief, who sent the $6.99. Thank you very much. Pierre, if McDavid doesn't win a cup in the next two, does he walk as a UFA? Where could he go?
Well, I think the landscape of the NHL is going to change pretty significantly. Taxation is going to be, and people don't want to talk about the business of hockey.
Yeah.
Taxation is going to become a very real issue for a lot of these guys that are making these big contracts. And so that's going to be really interesting. And would Montreal, and if everything was equal, be a good location? The answer is yes. But they're fighting a different fight. So I don't know what'll happen. I think it's going to be hard for them to win the cup this year, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Once again, before we break away here, there are some games that are not over, but the ones that, are over that you need to know are, of course, Tampa Bay winning big tonight by a score of 8-0. Detroit losing in regulation on home ice to Ottawa. And this one really hurts. Buffalo beating down on the Pittsburgh Penguins by a score of 7-3. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in San Jose. They're tied at 1 right now. And the Montreal Canadiens, of course, lose by a score of 6-4. The good news is the Canadiens are still in the wild card spot. The bad news is this is a game on paper that the Montreal Canadiens should have had. And unfortunately, they lost tonight because they weren't ready to play this one, and that's just unacceptable. Pierre, tomorrow night, the beauty of hockey, the beauty of sports is there's always tomorrow, and tomorrow night the Montreal Canadiens will play again. And it's rare that you and I are on Friday nights because it's rare that the Montreal Canadiens play on Friday nights. And even if the Canadiens play on Friday nights, it's rare that I'll be on Friday nights. But because there's 11 games left in the regular season, Pierre, I'll see you there tomorrow night, right after the Canadiens and the Carolina Hurricanes.
Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Tony.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Everybody. Pierre McGuire, the Sick Podcast, brought to you in part, of course, by Fruiterie Dillard. And Fruiterie Dillard, a family-run business, mainstay in the LaSalle community since 1995. Proud to continue offering the same fresh foods and flavors that they have for the past 30 years, from fresh fruits and produce delivered daily to an ever-expanding assortment of deli meats, cheeses, and sandwiches. You'll find personalized service and friendly faces that make you feel like family. I am there pretty much every Saturday doing groceries for myself, groceries for my mom, and picking up everything that I need to pick up at Fruiterie Dillard. It's a great place, and once again, so many familiar faces. The McGuire Report was brought to you in part by Restaurant Vago. Can we hear Brendan Gallagher before we break away, who was headed to the boards?
I mean, guys, we watch, we see what's going on. You know, the Palmieri goal, the goal we had called back, he skates in the crease on his own, he gets in Dober's way. That's what they've been calling. That's the standard. And then, it seems to go against us every single time. It's incompetence. We need someone in there who can show consistency that the players are asking. I mean, I don't know who's making the decisions. Players are frustrated all over the league. It seems like there's zero consistency, and it needs to change. We got to get people in there who understand the game, and we're not getting that right now.
Wow, Brendan Gallagher, who, by the way, was hit from behind, went back to the locker room at one point, and you have to think a fine is coming when Brendan Gallagher says it's incompetency, and we got to get players are upset all over the league. Let's get the graphic once again of Brink in the crease, and Marty St. Louis was not happy with this one. He thought it was goalie interference, and in the end, the goal stood, and it was not goalie interference. And if we can bring up the graphic, the picture, if we can, a Brink in the crease. Do we have it? We brought it up earlier in the show. We must have it. Do we have it? Or am I speaking to myself here? There we go. All right. Okay. We have it. And there you have it. Brendan Gallagher referring to that goal, of course, that is scored by Forster. And he's not happy. Thinks it was goalie in the crease. They went to the replay. They looked at it. And... man, that one hurt. That one really, really hurt the Montreal Canadiens. And Marty St. Louis thought that he had a call there on his hands, but there was definitely no call on that one. That's too bad. And he says it. He says, you know what? The players are frustrated. All around the league, players are frustrated. Let's keep an eye on that. We'll see what happens tomorrow night with the officials. I talked to you about Sammy's Valentine's Gala. Can we bring it up? On Saturday, April 5th. There you have it. God love him. Look at that. Food, open bar, entertainment, Plaza Volare. This is, folks, I go to a lot of fundraisers, okay? I'm not just saying this because this is Sammy's Gala, right? I go to a lot of fundraisers. The most fun I ever had at a fundraiser, and probably the best I ever ate, is at Sammy's Gala. So it's going to be an unbelievable event, and all proceeds donated to Cure SMA Canada. $225 for individual tickets. And if you're watching and you'd like to buy a table of 10, it'll come out to $2,000. So it's $200 a ticket. Should be getting a tax receipt back for about $100 for every ticket that you buy. And you know what? If you can't make it and you'd like to buy some tickets for someone else, or if you can't make it and you want to make a donation, you can call 514-219-2725. Canadians lose a big one in Philly, but they're back at it tomorrow night in Carolina. And for now, the Canadians are still in a playoff spot, and they will be. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. I'll be back. So will Pierre McGuire. Same time, same place, after the Canadians and the Hurricanes. 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. La Vida TB, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.